Okay, the code to check in is on screen. If you want to check yourself in. I've got a muscle in my back, and it's incredibly painful. So we won't be doing 3 hours today. You'll be pleased to know. Okay, so it'll be a shorter session today because I'm in quite a lot of pain. How is everyone? Yeah, good. Okay. So the purpose for the session today, what we're going to do is we are going to. This is more like a kind of a workshop as much as anything for you to really get to grips with budgeting and doing budgets of different types. So we're going to look at different types of budgets, variance budgeting. We're going to look at some cash flow budgeting, which is obviously very related to your assignment. But then I've set aside quite a bit of time. I appreciate last week we didn't have as much time as perhaps people would have liked to talk through the assignment. So I've got a good wad of time set aside. And that's really the outline for today. I've also got a quiz for you. The quiz is back. Okay, so testing your knowledge of what we've done over the past couple of weeks of budgeting. Any questions before we get going? If you've got questions on the assignment, save them till the end. Okay. Yeah, everyone happy with that? Okay, so first thing, right, rather than me talking, I'm going to get you straight into doing some budgeting. So there is an exercise for you to do on Canvas under exercise 1 for this week. So if you could head there should be a template. This is a kind of a quick refresher on compiling a club's budget. And I will also do it with you. So yeah, just head over to Canvas, open up the Excel document, and we can work through this together. Make sure you're comfortable with what we're doing. Has everyone got something that they can do this on? Access to Excel? Yep. Great. Okay. Feel free to talk to a friend if you've got any questions about it as we're working through it. So it's this first one here, compiling a club budget. All the information is laid out in Canvas. So your expenditure and your income. And your job is to compile this Excel spreadsheet as you go along. Oh, wow. Somebody screamed. Yeah, it's just the thought of doing more Excel budgets, isn't it? I know. So you can work through this as we're going along. As I say, all the information is on here, so you shouldn't need anything else. We're just working through the first assignment on Canvas.
डाउनलोड करके टोटल 42,500 अलग अलग प्लेन कॉस्ट मिल गया
You'll notice, having just looked at this again, that some of these lines are all in together. So the gas, electric, water mains, maintenance insurance, and the first team coach. There shouldn't be different costs for these. They should all just go together. Okay, how are we getting on? Anybody struggling at all?
I'm missing 50,000.
You're missing 50,000. Okay. Yes.
Okay, the cost of sales.
It gives you feedback.
Yours is 50,000. The total income
Because I've just included the gross profit. I've not included the cost.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I was missing a 0.
Oh, so
There's no other expenditures, right?
no, that's so yeah, it's all lumped together. Fixed costs.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems that
And these will be so that's
I have no idea why I did that. I did it.
income. So actually, did I?
I think so.
Oh dear. I did, you're right. Missing 10,000 from somewhere.
Oh, no. It's meant to be a bar plus. What did I do wrong?
No, you have, I don't think you've done anything wrong. I think I've maybe done something wrong somewhere.
it's going to be 5,000.
Loss, right? 45,000.
Yeah.
expenditures.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It also says that it will generate 10,000 income, cover 25%, which comes to cost. But the cost then would be higher than inflation.
That's because I've missed £10,000 somewhere in the scenario.
Well, should this be 40,000?
No, the income should be 55,000.
That's it. Yeah. You just did give the certificate. That is the 50,000.
Not quite sure how I messed that up. But anyway, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Men's class fee per
I think this is 0
and I don't know
You don't have it back then.
last class
But you could already.
everywhere.
Yeah, so that's the 50,000.
These are
Eight from match.
Yeah.
How many people?
So you times number of teams by number of players
That's like you're running.
times number of times.
Make sure you look at expenditure.
Yeah, so those four numbers.
Yeah.
25 plus 8 is
Cost of sales.
At the end of the day, it's right. That's if we do it right, not if we learn it.
15 players per team. 4 teams.
yeah, we're taking the membership.
Yeah.
I got it left out.
Yeah, everyone's okay?
So,
So,
it's painful.
my apologies, I've messed up on the scenario somewhere. So it should actually be a surplus of 5,000, but I've missed £10,000 somewhere. So hopefully you've all come up with minus 5,000 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on what the information has said. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well done. Anybody not end up with minus 5,000? Anybody not sure on some of the calculations? There was a very good point made that we would normally include both the cost of the purchasing the goods for the bar, yeah, and then we would have the outgoings as well in the expenditure. But obviously, we've just included the gross profit in the end here. Okay. Okay, good. So that was just a little refresher for you to get your heads in the game here. So yes, we should have had a total income of 55,000, but we somehow lost £10,000, which is not particularly good for a sports finance class. And we should have had a total expenditure of £50,000. Therefore, we should have had a surplus of 5,000, not a deficit, which is what we ended up with. I'll go back and have a look at that later on. So obviously this is good for the rugby club. They budgeted to have £5,000 extra, and it shows that they're operating sort of comfortably within its resources. However, we know that might be what they've planned, but actually reality might be quite different. What are some of the things that could go wrong over the course of the year that could affect that end number? What are some of the things we need to be thinking of and wary of?
Not as many people as they expect.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So is that just the bar itself? Yeah, so perhaps bar sales aren't quite as strong as we hope.
Games get cancelled for whatever reason because match fees.
Yeah, good. So they perhaps don't get so much income from match fees if a couple of games are cancelled.
Or all the players not turning up. Some of the players not turning up.
Good. Yeah, some of the players not turning up, so we're losing the match fees. Perhaps we don't recruit as many players as we want at the start of the season, so we lose their subscriptions. Yeah, anything else?
Not using the gaming machines.
Yeah, gaming machine doesn't get used.
Yeah, so electricity prices going up.
Excellent, yeah, so variable costs like that. We know when we're going to get inflation or cost of living increase. Good. Anything else?
Not getting the desired sponsorship.
Yeah, exactly. Sponsorship can be quite hard. So especially if there is a knock-on effect where the economy is affected, people have less money that they're willing to spend. So that's obviously quite a big thing. There's quite a big thing at the moment around the number of charities actually in Scotland that are struggling financially. So it's the biggest challenge they face since the pandemic due to costs of everything going up, and that affects sports clubs as well. Okay, but we know kind of what we need to do if we want to get 5,000, so we have some targets in mind. So, as I say, that was just a quick refresher. We'll also just have a quick recap of what we did last week, and then we're going to go through lots of different types of budgets and just get you doing bits and pieces of pulling budgets together so you have more confidence going into your assignments, which I think are due next Tuesday. Yeah, good. Okay, so learning outcomes are the same as last week. So we're already just focusing on budgeting and trying to get comfortable budgeting. So just a quick recap, we looked at what is budgeting and how is it different from other financial information-based documents. What are some of the key characteristics of budgeting? How does it differ from other financial statements that we're going to look at?
It looks to the future?
Yes.
Forward thinking, I think is the term.
Yeah, exactly. So forward-looking documents, so we're thinking ahead to the future rather than looking at historical data. Yeah, good. The benefits, what are some of the benefits of budgeting?
Estimating the expenditure.
Yeah, good. Yeah, being able to estimate expenditure. What else?
Seeing which goals are attainable.
Yeah, excellent. So being able to kind of work towards some goals with a bit of a plan and a bit of strategy. So really adding a skeleton to that. What about the limitations of budgeting? What are some of the limitations of budgeting?
Not knowing the exact figure.
Yeah, good. We're guesstimating to some extent. We're using information to inform that, but we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, good.
Underestimation of budget.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, okay, good. And then we looked at budgeting in theory as well. So we looked at that 9-stage process of how we would go about enacting a budget. Okay, why do they need to budget? Yeah, looking to predict what future income, what future expenditure they're going to have. Prepared for a specified period of time, but remember that changes from organisation to organisation. Some will budget for 9 months, some might budget for 12 months, some might budget for longer. They need to budget because they use it to make information and decisions based around the club. So things might change, strategies and goals might change based on what is realistic and what's attainable. And we also look at the investigating differences or variances, and you're going to be doing some variance analysis later on. So I think we also said last week, didn't we? We're talking about regardless of the sector of sport in which businesses operate, whether it's small voluntary sector like we were just looking at there, the rugby club, a local authority swimming pool, or a stock market listed company, doesn't really matter what type of sports organisation we're working with. It's really important that they will budget. All of these organisations need to budget. So an absolutely crucial part of a sports organisation's sort of management and governance. There's two questions that we need to ask ourselves that hopefully organisations can respond to. The first, is the selling price higher than the cost? So is it actually going to work out to be a kind of a successful business in its own right? So if we were having our rugby games that we talked about in the discussion there, it talked about the match fees. So if the match fees were just £5, they're really just cancelling out the cost of the match, right? That's why we need to set them slightly higher to make sure that we're actually generating a surplus. So are they living within the resources allocated to them? We may experience cash flow problems. Obviously, that's something you need to think about with your assignments that you're doing just now. And we need to think about interest payments as well. There's a lot of text on the screen. Don't expect you to read it all now. Feel free to have a look at it later on. But the second thing we're really thinking about here is whether it's a going concern. Okay, so whether or not we as an organisation can meet our liabilities as an organisation. So this is quite a common thing with rugby clubs lately, where they have taken on loans and they've obviously had to repay the loan interest, but they've been unable to meet the interest payments, and they've ended up, perhaps they've put the cost of their stadium against that loan as a kind of a security against the loan. They've not been able to make the loan repayments, and actually they've ended up losing assets or losing ownership of organisations. We're actually seeing this quite a lot in football as well at the moment, where people are coming in, they're loaning money to clubs, and the knowledge that those clubs aren't going to be able to repay the loan, and they'll be able to take ownership of those clubs as a kind of a repayment later on down the line. We're not going to do the case study. I will post that online later on though. Some of the benefits we looked at: being able to systematically plan, communication and coordination, so actually having a documentation that we can all work towards and a shared goal, a quantification and cost awareness, so sharing that across the organisation, making sure that we're all sort of working towards the same end product and end goal. Having an element to be able to perform and evaluate people against, so having a manager within your organisation, and then having a goal that they can work towards, rather than just a loose target for them, but actually having something documented that they can look at and work towards, and know that they need to achieve certain things by certain stages of the year. Motivation as well. This can go one of two ways, but offering people kind of targets that they need to work towards. Despite this, we do have some behavioural problems with budgeting. So conflicts between planning and control, use of budgets as performance evaluation. So yes, that can be good and it could be motivating for staff, but actually if people don't reach certain targets, and perhaps some of those targets are out with their control, that being used as a way to criticise members of staff perhaps, or employees. So if we take our sponsorship example sponsorship as an example, imagine we're in that rugby club and we've tasked somebody with generating £10,000 worth of sponsorship, but they've only brought in £5,000. But because people have got less money to spend, businesses are spending less, is that going to be used as a bit of a stick to hit that employee with, to criticise them, which can then be quite demoralising for that person as well? So thinking about how do we actually evaluate performance in some of these ways, and how useful are budgets when they don't really tell us the full picture of what's going on. Budgets as decontextualised numbers as well. So yeah, taking the context out of some of these things. So perhaps the cost of living has gone up. That's a kind of an external factor that no one can control, but actually somebody then gets hit with that. And actually numbers there aren't really reflective of anything other than what's happened with that organisation. They don't reflect the wider society, okay? These are all things to think about for your written report next week as well. So remember that you have to make recommendations to the board and the numbers don't say everything. So what are the things that you're going to bring into your evaluation that you're going to share with people when you're writing your report? Motivational or otherwise, as you say, like, is this actually going to help people, motivate them towards working towards certain goals? There's also the padded budgets as well. So imagine you get towards the end of the year and you haven't spent, I don't know, some of you might have had this before, you've been given a budget for the year, you get towards the end of the year and you know you actually have to spend that money, otherwise you're not going to get the same amount of money next year. So you pad the budget out, okay? So you end up spending things that you don't really need, but just because that is the process and the nature of budgeting. Has anyone come across that before? No? Okay, so you might find this later in life. You've been given a budget to manage, you get towards the year end, and actually you know that if you don't spend that money, there's an underspend in that budget, you're going to lose that money next year. So you end up padding it out in certain ways, okay, to make sure that you get that money again next year. So is that actually helpful or not? Yeah, thinking about things like that. Oops, gone the wrong way. Okay, cash flow budgeting. Now this is actually what you're doing in your assignments just now, so this is going to be hopefully quite helpful for you in terms of thinking. So remember, what we're doing isn't necessarily a cash flow because it's looking ahead, so it's not a cash flow in terms of actually this is where money came in and out of the organization, but actually trying to predict when money is going to come in and out of the organization, okay? So slightly different, but you're going to be budgeting over the course of the season in this example. And hopefully I've put the right numbers up this time.
Change the D. But yeah, that's it.
Does everyone know how to work out what 25% would be? Some of these numbers using Excel. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, but how did you calculate the whole months, the salaries for 12 months in one quick?
So it says under D, salaries and office and administration expenses will occur evenly.
Yeah, I mean, but how you calculate it in one click for the whole year? Or you manually type each month?
How did I? Sorry, say it again.
You manually calculated the salaries for each month, like 120,000 split on 12.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just because
And you did it for each month.
no, I just did it for 1 month and then just copied it across.
Just copy paste.
Yeah.
When I try and copy and paste it, it's not working. Like it's coming up with 0 and then it's coming up with something different. I can just keep typing it, just a bit longer, but I don't know why it's not working.
Oh really? I just copied and pasted it. No, I just something to do with the formatting of the cell.
How do you get this?
Obviously, the number is already here. It's 10,000. So then just
Divided by we are putting any formulas or
That's right. So if you just do 10,000 divided by 4.
I did it when we were looking away.
Sorry, what was
even for the casual wages, so it's like it's divided by 4, right?
Yes.
So do we have to put the formula for that, or we can just put it manually?
for this you could just put it in manually if you know how to do it, yeah. Although if you want to use the formula to do it, then
It would be a good practice.
yeah.
Whatever for different things. Whatever times.
Why are you doing 100 times 25?
I'm sure there's a much quicker way of doing it.
Did I just do /4?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Because I'm really worried about using the right formula and like.
No, I like to divide everything by 100 today.
See, this is so annoying. Yeah.
Okay, so how are we getting on? People managed okay? Yeah. So the next thing to do is thinking about, so this is great because we can see the money coming in on a month by month basis and the money going out on a month by month basis. But what does that tell us? What's the important thing here? If we're thinking about cash flow, what's the important thing? Yeah, good. Okay. What's this spreadsheet missing at the moment? So if we want to take this a step further, right, what we need to do is work out the total coming in and the total going out on a month by month basis, okay? So we can go equal sum, open brackets, all of income for January, okay? And obviously there's nothing in January, so it'll come up to 0. Then actually we don't need to copy that out, we can just drag that across, hopefully, and we'll get told how much money is coming into our organisation on a month by month basis. Okay, did everyone follow that okay? Yep. So for the first one, we're trying to work out the total for January. So we're going in where there would be, closing brackets equal sum 0. Okay, and then if everyone sees this button here, if you go to the very bottom right-hand corner of the cell, you can actually drag it across rather than repeat that formula, and it will work it out based on the information above. Okay? So we do the same for expenditure. So we go to January and we can calculate this 13,000. Yeah. Then actually we can just drag this across and it will tell us what money is coming out of the organisation on a month by month basis. Did everyone follow that? Okay. Did it work for everyone?
Yeah.
Great.
I have no idea.
Okay. So you put the formula into that first one and drag it across the rest of the months.
Okay, click on the first one.
So there's a button. Yeah, so you've done it for one cell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then can you see when I drag my mouse to the corner, it changes?
Oh, okay.
And then drag that across. Yeah, a little black cross. Yeah?
Oh,
Yeah?
I'm learning.
Okay, good.
I still don't know how to do the other one to get the salary across all 12 in one go.
I don't know either, actually, off the top of my head, but hey, we got that. So, what do we need to do now?
Do we need to find the profit?
Yes, exactly. So we need to calculate the total money coming in, coming out on a month-by-month basis, right? So we would go equal sum, and we would take our. Oh, actually, I need to think about this 1 second. So actually, I've done a slight hiccup. Yeah, so we actually started with 5,000, didn't we? So actually, this cell should be.
It should have 5,000.
You should actually include the 5,000. Okay, that's the only thing that changed. So then we should have total incomings minus our total outgoings. Okay. And again, we don't need to copy that out. We can just drag this across and it will tell us our cash flow. So we know how much money is coming into the organisation, going out of the organisation on a month-by-month basis. Yeah. And this is why cash flow is really important because, yes, we might end up with a closing balance of 100,000, but actually in some months we're going to have at the end of the first month, we've got minus 8,000, okay? So it's not actually a particularly good position. It's not great that we don't get our government grant until July. So think about how does this affect the organisation. If we haven't got any cash coming in, can we afford to pay creditors? Are there certain costs that we can actually afford to make? Thinking about our assignment, how much is your line of credit? So can you actually afford to go beyond your line of credit because you're spending money that you don't technically have, yeah? So thinking about how that's going to affect you. Now, one thing we could do to make this more complicated is say that when they are in a deficit, they're going to have to pay interest on any money that they're using, right? That's what you've got to do for your assignment, right? So I won't do that. We'll look at that at the end. But that's one thing that we need to think about is what does loan interest look like for us as an organisation. Right.
It's not
That's
actually
not
the
actually right.
closing
No,
balance.
it's not. Yeah. So what we actually need is something for this, which is bear with me. Just had a minor brain fart here. So actually, we brought in 13,000. Sorry, 5,000, but we spent 13,000. So our closing budget for the first, our closing balance, sorry, for the first month is 8,000. Minus 8, sorry, yes, you're absolutely right. So we're starting off with our expenditure. We're taking away our income. This is a negative, that's why.
5,000 minus 13,000.
Yeah. Okay. And then we've got our closing budget here. It's plus whatever would be in here, and then minus whatever would be in here. Okay, and then you should be able to drag that across.
Wait. So you included like the following month in there?
So we needed to work out the closing budget from the first month, yeah, which was whatever we brought in, take away whatever we spent, yeah. Then for February, we need to create the formula to let it know that actually we want to repeat this. So it's the closing budget from last month plus anything that we brought in, take away anything that we spent. Okay.
Okay, so that's why you did sum of 21.
So if you see the sum here, yeah, it's exactly that. So we're looking for the closing budget. Is everyone clear on that? I know that's a bit complicated. Does anybody want to go through that again? Yeah, you want to go through that again. So if I delete this, so we want to know at the end of each month what our balance looks like, right? So our opening balance is, as we say, we brought in £5,000, but we spent 13,000. Yeah, so that's going to tell us that actually at the end of January we're going to have minus 8,000. Then if we want to know how much we're going to have at the end of February, we need to take into account what we started with at the start of February. So actually it's equal sum, taking into account that we've got minus 8 to start with. Then we're adding in anything that we brought in. We didn't bring in anything in February. But then we're actually also need to take into account that we spent 13,000 as well. Okay, so we're ending up with minus 21,000. Now, rather than having to repeat that formula, we've almost trained it now that that's what we wanted to do. So we can copy that formula across and it will automate it for us. Okay. Is that clear? Yeah, so now the numbers add up in terms of closing balance. Okay, it worked? Yeah.
It's actually fun to do.
Yeah, hey, that's music to my ears.
As long as it is like a small number.
It's very satisfying when it works out. isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, but I did slightly different figures. You got slightly different. Did you set that number 100,000?
तुम्हारा देखो ये first ये close January में
Yeah.
sub C9 minus
This cross as well.
March total income 66,300.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, everything else now.
July में 50,000. Government को पैसा भी मतलब कैसे
No, fair enough. I did, once I got,
you cannot miss government grants. It is the government to add the government grant.
Okay, right.
50,000 government money.
Since
मैं यहाँ
And then I took 56,000. So next to length, 56,000. So open bracket, sorry. Yeah. And I sorry, I just sorry.
formulas before. I learned from friends
Oh yeah.
from the first second
The way I did it.
from the
So I used to
like watch videos how to do it. It was so complicated that like I used to work on like with English, but there was no formulas or written there, and I had to just do it. I tried figuring the formulas all in but I got it to get so confused. Search for it like what's this, what's that.
get there again.
Yes.
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
I did every single one.
Okay, you guys manage it. Okay. Yep. Okay. Let's power on. So we'll have different types of budgets. Even just there, we've looked at two different types of budgets. We've looked at a cash flow, so actually how does it change on a month-by-month basis? But we've also looked at a kind of a year income expenditure budget, just to look at kind of the rough numbers that are going to leave us there at the end of the year. What's going to be more complicating for your assignments that we'll come to is actually when we do that cash flow, the months that they're in a deficit, so those first 2 months before they've got real money coming in, who's paying for that, right? So if they got an overdraft from their bank, if they do have an overdraft, what interest do they have to pay on it? So that's where your if formula comes into hand with your assignments, and we'll look at trying to apply that later on to give you a bit more of a guide. So different types of budgets, okay? So on the one hand, we might have an operational budget, okay, and a recurrent budget. So that would be for the type of rugby club that we looked at there. So that's actually how are we going to operate year on year, okay? But we might also have capital projects, which are going to be large one-off scale budgets that we're looking at, okay? So that's not going to happen every year. This is a special project that we're investing in, perhaps. And again, we'll look at that later on. So operational budgets, they're estimates only. They're obviously going to change depending on certain things that happen, certain circumstances, certain parameters. So we spoke about sponsorship. For example, a sponsor may want to renegotiate its agreement. Membership income may fall because of poor on-field performance, and coaching and support staff may blow out because of increased demand for specialised skills. Okay. So within our operations budget, again, aims to accurately estimate the likely level of revenue that an organisation will have to play with and the anticipated expenses associated with the earning of that revenue. Okay, so every sports club and association, you've got to try and work out that split between revenue and expenses. Hopefully it will balance out, or at least you'll end up with a surplus. Okay, we're going to do some variance budgeting. So variance budgeting we looked at briefly last week. It's when we've got our plan for the year, okay, and we start to now track it and we try to monitor it and see how we have performed against our targets. So we end up with a percentage essentially of whether or not we met that budget, that target or not. So if we're underspent, we'll end up with a percentage of how close were we. Obviously, in all situations, you'd like to get to a place where you're 100%. Okay, so if you have large variances in your budgets, it's a bit of a cause for concern. Why did we spend so much more on staffing costs, or why didn't we spend as much on facility hire? Okay, so that's why you're trying to find out where you've gone wrong along the way. So we're going to do a bit of variance analysis now, and you are going to go to exercise 3 on Canvas. And we're going to look at how to calculate the variance between what was budgeted and the reality. This can get a bit tricky. You have to make sure you're actually analysing the right numbers.
And you said our assignment is only the calculator one?
So for you're doing 4 variations of a cash flow budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah. But it's almost like that operational budget.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you don't need to do variance analysis within yours. So variance analysis obviously only comes into play once you're a certain way through your financial year. Yeah. Okay, so you should have a spreadsheet that looks like this.
I don't think I'm very ready.
So if you look towards the bottom, you'll find there's actually a formula to work towards.
I don't understand the formula.
So it'll come out as a percentage. You can change it to it'll come out as a decimal. You can change it to a percentage by highlighting it and go to format cells, and then you can change it to percentage. Okay. Yeah.
Actual minus budget.
So it's the you start with the budget.
So budget supposedly it was estimated has 13,000 change, but on actual we have got 20. So it should be always actual minus budget, right?
No, because remember, we're working towards to find out how accurate our budget was, not.
Our budget was.
Yes, so we're looking.
Whatever we have generated, not that.
That's right. So we've got halfway through the year. We said that we were going to get 13,000 in.
So this can be of two categories. One, like two types we can analyze. One is how accurately we have budgeted.
Sorry, I've done it wrong. Apologies. So you're right. This is actually a part. I was thinking we were looking at expenditure. We're not. We're looking at income.
So for the first one, it will be plus 6,600.
Yes. Apologies. You're right. Sorry. So the numbers should get reversed. Yeah. And now you've done one. Hopefully this will work. You can drag them down so you don't have to do it again. Yeah. And you can do the same with your percentage.
So can you just repeat the variance?
Sorry, what?
Can you repeat the formula for the variance?
Yes, so the formula for variance is what was your, it's on the sheet there, but your variance is the variance in dollars, so $6,667 divided by the budget in dollars, so divided by 13,333. Yeah?
Can you repeat what you do in the percentage, the formula that you used?
Yeah. So it's equals sum the variance divided by the budgeted amount. Okay. Yeah. That gives us the percentage. Yeah.
Did you format it to not be a decimal? Because I just clicked the percentage thing at the top, like the hotbar. Oh yeah.
Did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't know if I have to put like a specific.
No. So I just highlight it, right click it, format cells, and you can change. You can change it. That's probably yeah.
The little percentage sign. Okay. Drag the formula. It's TP. You divide the D from the column. Because it's this formula here. The variance in dollars, which is the D column,
Yeah,
divided by the budget in dollars, which is the B column.
should be.
Did you do the D portion? Right. So what would you and then give me a decimal and then there's one here.
Sir, the total in the income is having 8,667, but you are having 12,267.
Sorry?
The total in variance in income is ours is coming 8,667 after adding up all the ones.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. That's number.
नीचे एक्सपेंडिचर
Actually, that's wrong.
Yeah, that's 57%.
The total in the income is coming to 38,100.
Sorry.
The total income, the actual.
Your total numbers are different than
Yes.
ours.
So it was pre-given, but there was a difference in the number.
No. I
It
think
is
it's
3800.
34,000. No, it's 34,500. But the number that is put here already it's wrong.
The variance. Yeah.
The actual number दिया हुआ ना 38,100 go wrong. 34,500. हाँ मेरे को ये पूरा change करना.
Did you have this?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But the numbers that were put from like it was already put, so that was wrong. Like when we downloaded it, the number that was there.
If
23,000.
your expenditure, yeah, this one's changed.
I think I have to switch off of it. What do you think?
Your D22.
What was your form number? That one?
34 Yeah.
257. 283 other mode change. 8,050 other. 8,000. Yeah, 8,000. Very
Yeah, no, they were right.
Is that right?
Fairly sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Mine's negative, so. Mine's negative.
I think that's it.
Yeah. That seems right. Yeah. Okay, how are we getting on?
Like I have the same numbers, mine are just negative.
Wait, why is it coming? 9,000. 4,700. Mine is plus.
That should be, yeah,
It should be negative 1,060.
it should be minus. Yeah.
I don't think so. Yours is positive, mine's negative.
So why is because their actual so the 23 is their actual, which is higher than their budgeted one. So then that means they have a negative because they spent the budget in the actual way. That's the reason.
So you might just do it. So maybe take
Like I get that we paid more than we budgeted, but
In expenditure,
When you're expending budget minus actual, then you get a negative number, you spend too much, which is the reason.
he did the C minus the budget. So you did the actual minus the budget. Did
Yes.
I do it wrong?
yes.
I was subtracting it.
How's it going?
Yeah, I think I had a different.
Minus this one,
Okay.
9,250. I saw that he added it. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You okay?
Yeah, how you do the pluses and minuses
yeah,
can change depending on like how you're actually using it. So yeah, you need a context.
yeah, different circumstances. Yeah, like because it's an expenditure we have like how much extra did.
So, is everyone finished? Work through it? We worked through it, yeah? We need a bit more time, or are we okay? Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're power on then. Got one more to do. So as I said, there's the two different types of budgets that we do. We'll look at an operational one where we're trying to work through something, and then we might use our variance budgeting to look at how accurately we've done. So hopefully you ended up with something close to the numbers that I had on the screen there, and we actually overachieved. So we actually had we had a good level of surplus from what we budgeted, and that was around 250 times what we had hoped. So that's obviously very positive. What do you think we would do next time round? If we, based on the results from that variance analysis, what would we do with next year's budgets?
Increase expenditure.
Yeah, increase expenditure. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? That's probably the main thing anyway. Okay, good. But now we're going to look at a capital budgeting project. So imagine you're operating a sports organization and you're wanting to develop more income for the organization over a longer period of time. So you might be a cricket stadium, and you're wondering whether or not you can bring in more income by developing a museum or a club shop. So you have the two options and you have to make a decision over which one you think is going to provide the most value to your organization. Okay, so this is slightly different from the operating budget process. We're looking at large one-off scale projects, and we're actually trying to work out how quickly we're going to get our money back. Okay, so we're going to spend potentially a few £1 million on an investment, on a project. Okay, we need to know how quickly we might get that money back, or what's going to be most valuable to us. So the return needs to be able to satisfy member or shareholder expectations, whilst also providing surplus to meet any borrowing costs. And there's 3 different tools that we're going to look at over the course of this. So the first one is the payback rule. Okay, so the payback rule is essentially how long is it going to be before we get our initial investment back out. Okay, so we've got 2 examples here. The funds need to be used for those projects where the initial outlay can be paid back in the shortest period of time. So we've got our merchandise shop and we've got our museum. So imagine this is the Australian cricket stadium. Okay, the capital cost for building the merchandise shop is $3 million. And the cost for building the museum is $2 million. Okay, so in theory, you'd think, all right, we might get our money back quicker from the museum, right? Well, actually, if we think about it, we're actually going to get an actual return of $500,000 a year from the merchandise shop, but we're only going to generate $200,000 from the museum. So actually, it's going to take us 6 years to get the money back from the merchandise shop, whereas it's going to take us 10 years to get the money back from the museum. Is that kind of quite clear how we would work that out? How we would come up with those end numbers and how we might use that to justify or look into future potential investments for our organizations? Yeah? Okay, but as I say here, important to note that this is not able to say whether the project might be viable in the long run. So actually, it doesn't give us an idea of, you know, how much viability it has beyond those 6 or 10 years. All it does indicate is which might be the least financially risky, but also doesn't say anything about the returns after those 6 or 10 years as well. Then we've got an accounting rate of return. Okay, so this is an estimate of the ratio of the expected average annual profits from the investment to its capital costs. So for an example, an investment in a leisure centre of 10 million with an average annual profit return of £200,000 would produce an average ARR of 2%. Okay, this could then be compared and contrasted with other projects to see where the largest return is. Yeah, are we clear on what our formula is for working that out? Yeah, okay, so we would then say actually maybe our swimming pool is going to give us 2%, but our leisure shop is going to give us 5%, and our museum might give us 10%. So actually we would go for the museum in that instance because we're going to generate more money on an annual basis. And our last one is our discounted cash flow. So the most systematic method for evaluating investment proposals is the discounted cash flow method. This takes into account time, value of money, which places greater weight on revenues and profits received in the earlier stages of the project, and less weight on revenues and profits received in the latter stages of the project. That is, all expected returns are reduced to present value, which is then used to evaluate the proposed investment. So we're trying to get back as much money as we can earlier on in the project, because we need to basically secure our investment, and then everything else beyond that is going to be profit for us. Okay. Right, so you're going to do a bit of capital budgeting now. If you go to project 4, this is a tennis club, the Signet Tennis Club. Which of the two competing business capital expenditure proposals would lead to better business performance?
25. Moving on. Other details, man. Holy smell. Getting the loan repayments monthly. Monthly loan. I just looked up. So,
Is everyone able to find a loan calculator online? So there's one on moneysupermarket.com you can find.
I have no idea what
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you need to find a loan calculator to work out what your monthly costs are going to be.
Okay, now we're cooking.
Are we cooking? Yeah. So yeah, the best place, probably the quickest way is to go to Money Supermarket, and they've got a loan calculator here. So you need to change this to 9% and put the amount in over how many years you need it for as well. Okay, and that will give you a number. How are we getting on? Anyone struggling? What did you end up saying? Same. Yeah. How you doing?
Really struggling, actually.
Really struggling. Ah.
This is a yearly repayment. 80,000 yearly amount.
The first one.
No, because you're repaying.
Yeah, monthly amount is less one.
So what this means is you're borrowing 80,000 but over the course of those 5 years you're going to pay back 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the 18,920, like we'll have to pay this one monthly, or like this is the yearly amount that is paid.
No, this is
the monthly amount. So loan repayments yearly, this will increase into 12.
Okay. Everyone happy with that? Yeah. I'll leave the exercises on Canvas for you to look through, to have another go at. But the calculator should have told you there should have been around £2,470 or dollars monthly repayment. So based on your analysis, which would be the better for the organizations? What does the first investment give us? First investment, good or bad for us?
It's good, right? We have no loss.
Yeah, we're pretty much breaking even. Yep. Okay, small surplus of $236. Second investment?
A loss of 19,000.
Yeah, exactly. So we're losing quite a large sum in our second investment, which is the air dome. And that's actually going to cost us around 20,000 per annum. Okay, so probably better off to stick to the first one. So you can see how budgeting could help us out in these instances as well. Okay, time for a quiz, and then we'll run through the assignment. So if you want to head over to menti.com and type in that code or use the QR code. Let's check in first. Okay, if you didn't grab the code, you can just grab it there at the top there, 5329 8314. So this is a quick recap of everything we've done over the last couple of weeks on budgeting. 15 questions.
15 questions.
15 questions. Everyone ready? Yeah? That's good. Okay, right. Question 1. You get more points if you answer quicker. Is budgeting a forward-looking process or a backwards-looking process? Yeah, it is a forward-looking process. We're trying to plan for the future. Very good. Okay. Well done, everyone. Too easy. That was just the start off.
I was going to give up there. I didn't did wrong.
Yeah, that was a warm-up. What type of information is typically required to compile a budget?
There was too much to read.
Way too much.
Yes, we need some historical data, so maybe last year's accounts, current financial status, and future projections. Very good. A bit trickier. It was good whilst it lasted, Jack. Right up there. How many steps are there in the budgeting process? We went through this last week. Hopefully you're all paying attention. Yes, there are 9 steps in the budgeting process. Question 4. What are the potential consequences of not implementing a budget? Risk of overspending and financial instability, increased financial transparency, enhanced resource allocation. Oh my god, my mind.
That would be all the black answer at the bottom.
That would have been good.
It's not changing.
Yeah.
It's a game around.
I think the following best describes budgeting. The process of random expenditure planning, systematic approach to allocate resources. Goals. Well done. Who said a random process of you know what, anything from the last 2 weeks? Which of the following represents a benefit of budgeting? Encourages short-term focus, enhances financial planning and control, facilitates resource misallocation, fosters uncertainty, and inefficiency.
Read them all.
That's very good.
Yeah, going down. No, I stayed.
Top 4 is not changing at all.
Question 7. Which of the following represents a disadvantage of budgeting? Enhanced financial control, facilitation of goal setting, potential rigidity in resource allocation, or improved coordination amongst them.
God.
I don't know.
9 seconds.
9 seconds.
Yeah.
Get it right.
It's like 152.
Easily 800 points. At least I'm not saying.
Question 8. Halfway. Which of the following is a behavioral problem associated with budgeting?
Every point counts nowadays.
So right. So we spoke about this at the start, the idea of padding, right? We're going to spend the money, otherwise we're not going to get it given us to us next year.
Get it. That
See, they
One. I was about to click forward.
at the bottom.
Yes.
Question 9. Which of the following best defines variance budgeting? So we've just done some of this. Hopefully this is fresh in your mind. That's pretty risky. Yeah, so we're looking at what we planned for versus what we actually did. I'm trying to work out the difference. Well done.
Could this just be our assignment or assessment?
It is always really, I mean, it's nice because you don't get this in your other classes, right, in the quizzes, but it's always funny that people always say that's their favourite part of the class, right? About all the nice little case studies over there. Which statement best describes the payback rule in budgeting?
It's quick. 2 seconds right there.
Yeah, so we're looking to work out how quickly we're going to get our initial investment back. Good. Oh, change at the top. 4 questions to go. What is a limitation of the payback rule? There are 2 correct answers here.
It's gotta be one of the right ones. There was no way that was 4 seconds.
I think it is 1. There are 2. I didn't even hit the other one. Which one did you go for? I went for second one. I didn't really care.
Okay, a bit of change now. Interesting. Okay, so a few changes there. Sandy.
Sandy's down.
The Sandy.
Yeah, I'm
down.
dropped.
Sandy Earth is up there though.
You said you got that wrong.
I did.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
What is AAR an abbreviation for?
Oh no.
Accounting rate of
Well done.
You got it wrong again?
Got it wrong again.
I'm confused. Who's Sandy Erther?
Okay.
That's right. I was so confused. Okay.
Next time will be Sandy, yes?
Which of the following accurately defines the accounting rate of return and investment rate?
No clue.
I think I got it wrong. 11 seconds.
That's huge. That's huge. That's huge. Team Sandy up.
Okay.
Oh man.
Team Sandy up. Let's go, Sandy.
Wow.
Doing some short thoughts. Yeah.
3 questions to go.
Shake it.
What does organizational survival typically refer to?
I'm slow, but gotta give them right, you know? Gotta give them right.
The David Moyes of this world. Yeah. So we're really just interested in making sure we're going to be there for the while.
Oh, maybe not quite quick enough. So.
Where are you going?
Jack is the fastest. Good job.
So it all comes down to the last question.
Sweating.
Which of the following best describes discounted cash flow?
I don't remember us talking about that at all.
The third one.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Sandy crumbled.
I don't think I can go asking 5 questions I was wrong.
Where is OK and YH?
Say it again.
Sandy, man.
Nice. Well done.
Last couple of questions killed me.
Okay. Well done. A bit of fun there for you. Last section really is just to ask what questions you have about the assignment, and if you want to go through what we did last week, but in a bit more depth.
The IF formula.
The if formula, yeah.
Not a clue what I'm doing.
Okay. So our if formula comes into play when we. So remember the exercise we just did with the cash flow budget, yeah? In those first 2 or 3 months, we were in a negative. We were in a deficit for the month frame. So we technically didn't have. We were presumably using an overdraft system to pay for the bills that we were incurring. Okay. In the scenario that you've got in the assignment, if you are in the deficit, you need to start using the line of credit that is provided to you. Okay. When you use your line of credit, you have to pay interest on it. Okay. So you're not only are you paying off money towards it, you're actually paying the interest on it as well. And I think the interest is calculated at 6.5% from memory. So you need to apply the if formula to tell Excel that when you are in a deficit, you need to also apply 6.5% interest to the amount that you're borrowing. So we can do it just now together and see if we can get it working together. It can be quite complicated. Yeah, do you want to? Would that be helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, you can get the template for it on the assignment page. Okay, so remember last week we typed in the we looked at the first budget and we populated the first budget. So we can quickly do that again. And so our registration fees for the first budget are what? 425. And how many players do we expect we're going to have? Great. Okay. So in terms of our fundraising, 2,500. Number of home games? 4.
8.
We've got 4, yeah. And I had a question last week about why the numbers matter in terms of where I put them. So if you look at the months along the top here, we incur certain costs in certain months, don't we? So is it 2 in June and 2 in July?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, 4 games.
4.
4 games in June.
4 in June.
So
No, there's
home
two
games are
games
in June.
2. Yeah. So this is going to be important because remember we're doing the raw data ourselves, right? So we need to have these numbers to be able to rely upon when we do the formula. What's our admission per game? 500. Yeah. Concessions revenue? Yeah. And what do we work out? What percentage are we? 45%, right? So there's a couple of ways of doing this, but actually you can just type in 0.5 because that's going to essentially give us what 45% is of the cost. What's our projected equipment cost?
500.
Yeah, great. And field rental?
1,500.
Practice facilities?
3, I guess.
Oh, sorry, no, I've done that wrong. 200 and then 1,500. Practice months? What months are we practicing in?
April to August. 5 months.
April to August. Yeah. Away game? Referees?
200.
Yep. Away games. When are we playing away? Yep. 4. Yep. So we're playing once away in May, twice in June, and once in July, I think.
Yes.
Yep. Our bus costs are going to be how much?
2,300.
2,300. Our food and water.
1,600.
Great. Apparel.
1,000.
Our league registration. And our insurance liability. Okay. So now we have our information. We can start to populate our cash flow budget. So how much are we expecting to generate an income in February?
14,875.
40,000.
Yeah. So we would do our formula, wouldn't we, where we would go equal sum and we would times the registration by the number of players. This is why I want to see you refer to the spreadsheet rather than input the numbers yourself, yeah? So we should end up with 14,875. Okay. We can also pre-populate this by saying we received there. Okay, what else are we expecting to generate in February? Anything? No? Nothing. Okay, so we can do a total outflows for the month, and that's going to be important because that's going to affect our end of month balance, yeah? What about our outgoings in February? Have we got any outgoings?
Put in what?
Yeah, good. Got 160. Okay. Anything else? No. So our total outflows for the month equals so what we want to do, let's we've got 160 every month, don't we? I think. Yeah. And we've got player and coach apparel. I'm not going to do the whole thing for you, but I'm just going to get us to a place where we're going to have negative cash flow so you can see how loan interest works. Equipment cost is going to be in April, and that's our biggest cost, right? So our net cash flow is going to be that. Going to be flat minus our outgoings. Okay, so net cash flow. Remember, we're starting from a cash balance of 0. So we need to work out what the difference is on a month-by-month basis. So we start with 0, and we're adding on that instance. Okay. Also pre-populate this. So then our opening balance in the next month is going to be this, and we're going to add this, and then that should be no, sorry. Our opening balance should be the same as this month. The opening balance for the next month will be the same as the closing balance of the month before, right? Does that make sense? Yep. But then actually it's going to change because we're going to start with the last month's, and we're going to take into account the difference there between costs. So actually we can, now we've done that formula, we can, oh no, you actually have to do it on a month-by-month basis. Okay, so now we've got a minus for this month because we had a huge outlay of cost for equipment. So now we need to work out our loan interest. So we can't actually work out our loan interest until we know when we're going to be in a deficit, right? So this is where our if formula comes in. So what we need to do is equal if. Now this is telling us if the number is in a deficit, if it's a negative number, then we need to apply interest and calculate what the interest is on it. Okay? So if the end closing balance is less than 0, then, and this formula is provided for you on Excel, so you should be able to use this. Then we have our 0.05, which is our interest rate, sorry, 6.5, times by 47, divided by 12, actually edit quickly.
Need C47.
Right.
You put a cell.
So after the multiply, is it 40 C47?
No. Sure. Quite like that happened.
You take the brackets, you need to do C47.
I don't know if it is. Yeah, let's try that. Oops. So, C47 is less than 0. Right, because I've not put enough information. Has anyone had a go at doing the if formula yet? Yeah, did it work okay for you? You've managed to calculate it? Yeah?
Basically, there's no interest paid in February because your scenario is paid the month after.
Yep.
So I ignored the formula in February and I just copied, like, put cells, the formula for C into B.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it got rid of the error, but I don't know if that's right.
Yeah. No, it definitely works. I'm not sure why it's not currently working. I've maybe done something wrong. Do you know why? I'll tell you why it's wrong. It's because I'm doing it in the wrong month. So you obviously can't pay you're right, so it's paid the month after, right? So you wouldn't calculate it until the month after. So I'm trying to put it in for the first of the year, but actually we don't apply it till the second month, okay? So hopefully, yes, reminded myself. Oh, sorry, you reminded me. So if C47, so the previous month, is less than 0, I really hope this works, otherwise I'm going to look pretty stupid. C47. Great, okay. So, yes, we don't have any interest there. But actually, guess what? We do incur some interest later on, okay? Is that clear on how we calculate that?
This is recorded, right?
It is recorded, yes. I can maybe edit out the bit where I get it wrong.
Is that 12 commas here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is putting the 0, the 12,0? But what is the 0? What's the 0? I thought you did.
What did you know? So obviously I'm not going to give you all the answers because that's part of your assignment, but remember if you get the numbers right, then you get 30 marks straight off the bat, yeah? And remember there are 4 budgets that you need to do. Cash flow budgets. So hopefully that's helped the questions about the if formula and why we need and how we calculate it and why we need to calculate it. Once you've populated the whole thing, it shouldn't be zeros.
Like on the bottom, like the ending balance bit.
So once you've kind of got negative cash flow, you should see where interest has been incurred.
Okay. Because I did the formula you did for D, like the C47 one. I just dragged it across and I got all zeros, but I haven't filled in everything either. So.
Right. Have a play, and you need to have a negative. Any questions about the assignment? Yes.
There's a line about depreciation. Do we have to consider that?
Good question. So your budget only runs till the end of August. So that obviously isn't going to show up in your budget, but maybe that plays some element of influence on your report.
You said we don't have to do depreciation?
Depreciation won't appear in your budget because it's just for 1 year. But yeah, you'll try to think about how that might affect your thinking for longer term. Any other questions? Everyone happy with it? Yeah?
I don't understand why mine's different than here. Because I think I have the same information you have.
Yeah, everyone has the same information. I mean, I've only populated a little bit of information.
No, I populated that more, and I have zeros across the whole thing.
Did you do it from this month?
Well, I did the formula that I did what you showed us earlier. We drag it, pull it across, would do it to all of them.
Yeah.
And it's all 0.00.
Maybe might be something to do with what you've done here.
Those numbers match as well. Like
Have a play around. It might make sense. Yeah.
For the opening balance, the one you would drag across.
So opening balance is just what you finished last month on.
Yeah.
So that is just equals. Sorry, opening balance is just I just go make sure it's equal to that, and then that one is just equal to that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I suggest we finish up early. Yeah. Give you a bit of time to crack on with your assignments. Okay. I will post this on. I'll post this on Excel, Canvas, so you can access it. Okay. How's everyone?